Good morning, students. Students, today I am going to discuss about different types of population interactions. Students, as we know that living organisms are interacting with each other by various means, and they are forming different kinds of biological communities. I want to tell you that the living organisms or the populations can interact with each other by two different ways. The first interaction is called as interspecific interactions, and the second interaction is called intraspecific interactions. Now, one by one, I will discuss about them. So, initially, I will talk about interspecific interaction. So, students, we can say that interspecific interaction is a kind of interaction in which two different populations of different species are interacting with each other. Means while two different species individual, when they are going to interact with each other, then such kind of interaction is called interspecific interaction. While when the member of a same species, means a group of individuals of the same species are going to interact with each other, then it is called as intraspecific. So this is the difference between interspecific and intraspecific interaction. And students, these interactions are of different types like predation, competition, parasitism, commensalism, amensalism, as well as mutualism. So if you will observe that in the chart there are interactions and mentioned here species A and species B. So in different types of interaction you are observing plus or minus symbols. So means plus symbol in which kind of interaction, which kind of species is going to benefit it, or minus sign indicates that which species is going to be harmed. Of if 0 is mentioned here, it means that there is neutral kind of interaction, there is no harm or no benefit to that particular species. If you will observe that in the first one, in predation, only one species is benefited while the other species is harmed. While in competition, both of the species are harmed. In parasitism, one species is going to be benefited and one is going to be harmed. While in commensalism, one species is going to be benefited, but there will be no impact on the another population. Neither it will be benefited nor it will be harmed. In amensalism, one species will be harmed and there will be no impact on the other species. While in mutualism, in condition of mutualism, both of the species which are interacting with each other going to be benefited. Now we initially I am talking about predation. Now as we know that predation means capturing of a prey by a predator. So we can say that it's a interspecific, means it's a kind of interaction which occurs between two different populations of two different species. Okay, in which a predator means a strong animal kills or consumes a weak animal which is referred as prey. So it's a prey and predator relationship, I have to say that. Okay, in which the predator is going to be benefited because the predator is getting its food from the prey, while the prey is going to be killed. So that's why we can say that it is going to be harmed. Okay. So and I want to tell you that this predation is also essential because predation um, is a method through which the energy is going to be passed from one trophic level to another trophic level in a food chain. Suppose a deer is hunted by a tiger, so we can say that the energy is going to transfer from deer to tiger. Okay, as well as the predators keep prey population under control, otherwise prey reach very high population density and cause imbalance in the ecosystem. So the its second importance is that if we want to control the population of the prey, so for that we need predators too, and predators are regularly killing their prey as their food, and they are controlling the population of prey species too. Okay, I am giving you a very common example. If we will kill all the lions or tigers from the forest, so definitely the number of the herbivores will increase, and it will be a extinction feature for the various species in an ecosystem. Sometimes predators are used as a biological control for pest. Means if you are going for the agriculture, so this predation method is used for a biopest control method. For example, ladybird. Here you are observing ladybird. It's a kind of insect. It is used to kill or control the aphids, and dragonflies are used to kill mosquitoes. So here you are observing two predators. The first one is ladybird and the second one dragonfly. Both are useful because these are predators. For the first one is predator for aphids, which are pests for our crops, and mosquitoes are also a disease causing agent, and these are used for, as a biopest management for the clearing of the mosquito larva or mosquito egg. ठीक है. Now one more thing I want to tell you, that prey species have evolved various defense mechanisms to reduce impact on the predation. Now, while there is an interaction between prey and predator, so what the prey are going to do? ठीक है, जो प्रे स्पीसीज है वो उन्होंने अपने अंदर कुछ डिफेंस मैकेनिज्म डेवलप किए हुए हैं जिससे कि उनके ऊपर प्रेडेशन का खतरा थोड़ा सा कम हो जाए. फॉर एग्जांपल आई एम गिविंग यू वन एग्जांपल. ठीक है, सर्टेन इंसेक्ट स्पीसीज एज वेल एज फ्रॉग हैव camouflage. Here you are observing one picture and you will be able to identify that there is a frog, and this frog has camouflaged itself according to the background, means according to background color the color of frog is there, and this is called cryptic coloration, and due to it it is going to hide itself from the predator. ठीक है. Now another example is there is a butterfly. Name of the butterfly is monarch. ठीक है, and it has developed a chemical in their body. ठीक है, which makes them very distasteful, and the predator bird do not want to eat such kind of distasteful butterfly or larva or caterpillar. ठीक है, monarch butterfly is very distasteful bird, distasteful to the prey bird, and it produces certain chemicals, and these chemicals are produced during the caterpillar larval stage by feeding on the poisonous weeds. Now similarly, the herbivores are predators for the plants, and there is a quite big risk, we can say that, for the plants against the herbivores, because the plants can move here and there, because prey can move here and there to protect themselves, but the main problem of predation is with plants, because the animals they cannot move. And about 25% of the insects are phytophagous, means there the total number of the species, there are 25% of the insects are there of the total number of the species who are feeding on the plant sap as well as the plant products. So the plants has to be protect themselves from these insect or some other predators. So plants have developed some morphological or chemical defense mechanism against the herbivores, like thorns of the bougainvillea, you can observe here in the picture, spines of the acacia, as well as certain chemicals are produced by plants to protect themselves from the predators, like calotropis is a plant which produces a highly poisonous glycoside, ठीक है, which is a cardiac poison, and while a predator eats it, so it will be harmful for it. So the predators are not going for these kind of plants. Similarly, nicotine, caffeine, quinine, strychnine, opium are some chemicals which are produced by plants against the predators. ठीक है. Now the second type of interaction is called competition, and I want to tell you that competition is a kind of interaction in which both of the species are going to be harmed. ठीक है, and this competition may be interspecific as well as intraspecific both, and one by one we will talk about intraspecific as well as interspecific competition. As I mentioned earlier that intraspecific means the competition between the members of the same species, and interspecific का मतलब है कि the competition between the individual of the different species. ठीक है. Now competition between the individual of the same species is for same resource that are limited. तो अगर एक ही स्पीसीज के इंडिविजुअल के बीच में अगर कंपटीशन हो रहा है, वो क्यों होगा? बिकॉज ऑफ द लिमिटेड रिसोर्सेज ऑफ फूड, हैबिटेट एज वेल एज सम अदर थिंग्स. ठीक है. इन सम केसेस रिसोर्सेज नॉट टू बी लिमिटेड फॉर कंपटीशन टू अकर. द फीडिंग एफिशिएंसी ऑफ वन स्पीसीज माइट बी रिड्यूस ड्यू टू द इनफेयरिंग ऑफ द अदर स्पीसीज. अब ये ज़रूरी नहीं कि केवल एक ही स्पीसीज़ के इंडिविजुअल जो एक ही चीज़ के ऊपर फीड कर रहे हैं वो उसी चीज़ के लिए कॉम्पीट करेंगे. ये हमेशा पॉसिबल नहीं है. कभी कभार क्या होता है कि नहीं, दो अलग अलग स्पीसीज़ के बीच में भी कंपटीशन हो जाता है, एंड दिस इज नॉट, एंड हेयर द फूड और द रिसोर्सेज आर नॉट द लिमिटिंग फैक्टर फॉर द कंपटीशन. ठीक है. हेयर द फीडिंग एफिशिएंसी creates one competition between two different species. Now how feeding efficiency can create competition, I am telling you that. I am giving you one example. ठीक है. Abingdon tortoise in Galapagos Island became extinct within a decade after goats were introduced into the Iceland. Okay, there was a species of Abingdon tortoise in the Galapagos Island, and these tortoises were feeding on the grass or some herbs only. And while the goats were introduced in that particular region, these two are quite different species. One is tortoise and another one is goat, means mammal. ठीक है. These two are different species, but due to their feeding behavior or feeding habit, the abundant tortoise got extincted from Galapagos Island because they were slow grazer. ठीक है, while the goats are quite quick grazer, I have to say that means the grazing efficiency of goats is quite or browsing efficiency of the goats is quite higher than the tortoise, so they were grazing fastly than the tortoise, and that's why the tortoise became extinct. Similarly, unrelated species are also can also compete, like a fish can compete with uh, bird too. I have one example. Flamingo is a bird, and these are competing with a species of fish for the zooplanktons in the water. ठीक है. Now, due to the competition, one concept can occur, and this is called competitive release. Actually, what is competitive release? I am telling you that a species whose distribution is restricted to a small geographical area because of the presence of the competitively superior species is called competitive release. So certain times what happens, there are two species, and the two species are competing, two different species are competing for same resource or same food or same habitat. Then what can happen, a वीक स्पीसीज कैन बी रिस्ट्रिक्टेड टू अ पर्टिकुलर एरिया, यानी कि जो सुपीरियर स्पीसीज होगी वो तो सारी जगह फैल जाएगी, बट जो एक वीक स्पीसीज होगी इट कैन बी रिस्ट्रिक्टेड फॉर अ स्मॉलर जियोग्राफिकल रीजन, एंड दिस कॉन्सेप्ट इज कॉल्ड एज कॉम्पिटिटिव रिलीज. ठीक है. दीज स्पीसीज इज found to expand the distributional range dramatically when the competing species of experimentally removed. तो आप देखेंगे कभी कभार क्या है कि कोई स्पीसीज किसी पर्टिकुलर रीजन तक ही होकर के रह जाती है, जिसको हम बोलते हैं एंडेमिक हो गई है ये. ठीक है, एंडेमिक हो गई है, तो इसका मतलब है कि एक पर्टिकुलर रीजन पे एक पर्टिकुलर जोन पे ही ये मिल रही है. अगर आप इसके कॉम्पिटिटर को हटा दें उस जोन से, तो आप देखेंगे कि ये जो स्पीसीज है ये आगे भी बढ़ना शुरू करेगी, ये फैलना स्टार्ट करेगी. ठीक है. इसको एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए गॉस का एक रूल दिया गया. गॉस ने कॉम्पिटिटिव एक्सकल्सन का एक रूल दिया था, एक प्रिंसिपल दिया था ना. व्हाट इज इट, आई एम टेलिंग यू दैट गॉस कॉम्पिटिटिव expulsion principle. Now, this principle states that two closely related species competing for the same resource cannot exist together, and they completely and the competitively inferior will be eliminated by superior. तो गॉस का जो कॉम्पिटिटिव एक्सकल्सन प्रिंसिपल है वो ये बोलता है कि दो क्लोजली रिलेटेड स्पीसीज जो सेम रिसोर्सेज के लिए कॉम्पीट कर रही होंगी वो कभी भी एक साथ एग्जिस्ट नहीं कर सकती. जो उसमें इन्फीरियर स्पीसीज होगी वो सुपीरियर के द्वारा हटा दी जाएगी, उसको एक्सटिंक्ट कर दिया जाएगा, उसे एलिमिनेट कर दिया जाएगा. तो इट स्टेट्स दैट टू क्लोजली रिलेटेड स्पीसीज कॉम्पिटिंग फॉर द सेम रिसोर्सेज कैन नॉट एग्जिस्ट टुगेदर. ठीक है. एंड द कॉम्पिटिटिवली इन्फीरियर स्पीसीज विल बी एलिमिनेटेड बाय द सुपीरियर वन. ठीक है. तो टू प्रिवेंट देम सेल्फ स्पीसीज, two different species have adopted some mechanisms. The first mechanism is called resource partitioning. Resource partitioning means it is a mechanism meant for coexistence of the species to face competition. While two species who are having same resources and they are competing for the same resources, sometimes they are adapting themselves to that they are get reading from the competition with each other. तो इसमें एक रिसोर्स पार्टीशनिंग इसका एक सबसे बढ़िया एग्जांपल है. इसमें क्या होता है देखिए, अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस, if two species compete for the same resource they could avoid competition by choosing different time of feeding or different foraging pattern. तो ये क्या कर सकते हैं कि अपने फीडिंग पैटर्न को चेंज कर लें. फोरेजिंग का मतलब शिकार करने का टाइम चेंज कर दें, फीडिंग पैटर्न चेंज कर दें, तो इसकी मदद से ये आपका बच सकते हैं. इसके लिए एग्जांपल है मैकआर्थर करके एक साइंटिस्ट थे. ही शोड दैट द 5 क्लोजली रिलेटेड स्पीसीज ऑफ वार्बल्स लिविंग ऑन द सेम ट्री वर एबल टू कोएग्जिस्ट and avoid competition by having behavioral differences in their foraging hunting activities. So MacArthur explained that there were there were 5 different species of warbles. Warbles means a kind of bird, and they were living on the same tree, but they changed their behavior, means they changed their foraging practices, their hunting practices, their feeding practices, and they survived together, and they adapted against the competition. ठीक है. नाउ द नेक्स्ट काइंड ऑफ interaction is called parasitism. Parasitism is the interspecific interaction. Parasitism is basically an interspecific interaction in which two different species are interacting with each other. One species is called parasite, ठीक है, which is living or taking its nutrient from the host, and the host is always getting harmed while the parasite is benefited. So we can say that it's a plus minus relationship. And uh, one thing I want to explain that in such kind of relationship parasite as well as the host are both of both are evolving together, means it's a co-evolution process. While how I am telling you that how co-evolvement is there, co-evolution is there, it means that the host evolves a special mechanism uh, to reject or resist parasite. The parasite has evolved the mechanism to neutralize them. So what happens here, if host is modifying itself or host is adopting itself, and it is working against the parasite and adapting some or evolving some mechanism to get rid from the parasite. So at the same time parasite also evolves itself to get rid from the or to survive in the changing conditions. Okay, now what are parasitic adaptation? I am telling you that parasites can co-evolve. Second, it may lose sense organs. Presence of suckers and hooks are also the modification or adaptation of the parasites. Loss of digestive system, because they don't require any kind of digestive system, because they are getting already digested food, and they have high reproductive capability, they are producing large number of offspring. Okay, so these are some features. Some plants have complex life cycle, some parasites have complex life cycle and generally have one or two intermediate hosts. So I want to tell you that there are certain parasites who are completing their life cycle more than two hosts, so they are using intermediate host. I am giving you simply the examples. Human liver fluke has two intermediate hosts like snail or fish. Similarly, the malarial parasite has also a intermediate host, and this is called mosquito. So there are certain parasites which are using multiple host or intermediate host too. Okay, and I want to give you some examples like human lice and ticks are the ectoparasite, while the copepods are the ectoparasite on the marine fishes. Cascata is a parasitic plant and grows on the trees. ठीक है, and cascata has modification that it is ready-madely it is getting nutrients, so it has lost chlorophyll as well as the leaves during the process of the evolution. ठीक है, and it gets nutrition from a host plant, and the name of the host plant is hostoria. ठीक है, now the fourth one kind of population interaction is commensalism. I want to tell you that it's a kind of interspecific interaction, means two different species are going to interact with each other, and in this kind of interaction one species is going to be benefited and the another one is neither harmed or nor benefited. ठीक है, example epiphytes. ठीक है, that is orchids are growing on the tree branch, orchids are getting habitat but there is no loss for the plant. ठीक है, similarly barnacles which are growing on the back of the whale, these are also while the whale are moving, the barnacles are also moving, but there is no disadvantage for the whale. ठीक है, similarly egrets are a kind of birds. ठीक है, they generally want to live with the association with the cattles, while the cattles are grazing or foraging. At the same times the insect will flip into the air and they will caught the insects. ठीक है, तो there is no harm to cattles but egrets are benefited. Similarly clownfish lives with the sea anemone, this is also a kind of commensalism. And a sucker fish which normally attaches with the back of the shark, this is also the example of commensalism. So in this way we observe that in this kind of interaction one species is going to be benefited and there will be no harm or no benefit to the other species. And next one is mutualism. In mutualism it is also interspecific interaction in which both of the species are going to be benefited. This is the very first interaction which we are going to observe right now, in which both of the species are going to be benefited. Like lichen is a symbiotic association between fungus and algae in which both are going to be benefited. Like mycorrhiza is a association with the roots of the higher plants as well as some fungus in which both are going to be benefited. ठीक है, similarly pollination there are some pollinator agents, biotic pollinator agents in which both of the plant as well as the birds are going to be benefited, because the birds are or the insects are getting nectar as well as the pollination process is going on for the plants. ठीक है, similarly the animals are also helping in the dispersal of seeds, so they are getting food in the form of the seeds as well as they are helping in the dispersal of seeds too. ठीक है, now next example is fig tree and pollinator species of the wasp. There are certain species of wasp which live inside the flower of the fig and they can nutrition from there, they can get shelter and also help in the pollination process. ठीक है, and the last is called amensalism. Amensalism is a kind of population interaction in which two different species are going to be interact with each other, and in such kind of interaction there is no harm or no benefit to one species while the another species is going to be harmed. So one side it is neutral and one side it is going to be harm or leaving a negative impact. Example I am giving you that while a penicillin grows in a culture medium or in a bacterial medium, so it will grow, it can grow anywhere, so there is no benefit or no harm for the penicillin, but the another species of bacteria is killed due to the penicillin, the chemical which is produced by the penicillium. So in this way we can conclude that there are various kinds of interaction in which various kinds of benefits or harm are caused by different kind of populations. So I am going to conclude myself. I hope so you understood today's concept. Still if you have any query, please ask.